So today we're going to be talking about lists. Okay, a list. Now a list is the data structure in Python. It is a collection of items or elements of values that are separated by commas and surrounded by square brackets. So we could also have an empty list, which is a list that has its values yet to be filled in, and it's just square brackets. So this is the number line 1 has an empty list X, and then line 2 has random numbers, 3 grocery, 4 names. And now the cool thing about a list is the fact that a list can actually be infinite. You can put in any value you want and different things. You can do a lot of things. Okay? But it's also what defines that property means that it's mutable. So this single value or this single box holds a lot of things inside it. So it's just a single item, but it holds a lot of things. And we can access those things and we can use those values for whatever reason. For example, in line 6 here, we have names. We store names into the variable t and we do a string operation because we know already that names are a string. And that's why it's always good to have your variables named very well. Okay? And also when you're naming a list, you should name them with plural. Name them in plurals, okay? Let them end in plurals. I didn't do that yet, but that's my bad. So now that we have that done, we have names 0 and we put in Paul. What we are doing here is we are essentially changing the value of this name to Paul. So let me comment that out. We learned about comment in the last video. So I'm just going to comment that out and let's see what it gives us as the first name. What we do here is called a formatting. Now formatting is this F formatting is how we use a value that we've gotten from something. For sometimes maybe a variable, or in this case, if the variable is actually a list and we got a particular value and we use it in a string sentence. So it's called F string formatting. So now let's play it and see. Run. And we can see it's telling us Shegun is Paul. But we could also say maybe we don't want to put the name Shegun. Perhaps we want to put the name Paul. So what I do is I change the first item. So now, how did we get the item? The thing with list is that though these values are comma separated values, it's also in a sequential order. So the program knows, or Python knows, that it's called an index notation. So the first element is 0, the second element is 1, the third element is 2, and so on. Now that might be confusing to you, but the cool way to know about it is you just minus 1. So say for example you want to get the third position. Look at this groceries for a second. You want to get meat. Meat is what at the third position if we're using our own normal human way of accessing things. This is the first, egg is first, fish is second, meat is third. So if you wanted to access this, we'll say 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1, that is what? 2. And that is going to give us meat. So for example, let me, instead of printing this one that I have here, let me comment this out. And let's say we want to instead print, instead we want to print grocery and we want to get the value of I want to get this third position value. So we're going to say what? 3 minus 1, 2. And what are we going to get? We are going to get meat. Cool. Now, so that's it. But there's so many cool things we can do with lists, and this video might not be able to cover everything. So I'm just going to let me cut this out. I have some things I labeled out here, so let me see if I can explain further with them. So this is some values here that I have. I have L is equal to meat, fish, rice, eggs. A lot of my favorite things, right? But if you notice something about L right now, I don't have the square brackets around it. So this gives me something. It's a totally different value. This thing is called a tuple. It's a tuple, and a tuple cannot be, you cannot do much with the tuple. The advantage of a tuple is that it is faster than a list because it's finished. So it's it's not mutable, it's immutable. Also, um, another thing with tuples is that they are pretty great for working with data. Okay, they are pretty great for working with data when you just know the particular values, and they can be used interchangeably with the list. It all depends on you. So now look at what I did. To turn my tuple into a list, I use this method call, and I say transform this L into a list. And later on, when I print out the type of F, it's going to tell me that F is actually a list now. And then let me try and print out F. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to put in F here, and I'm going to run it. And it tells me we've turned it now to a list: rice, eggs, fish, beans. Okay, but I've also done some things to L. What have I done to L? Let me see. Well, or rather, I have actually removed things. So you can actually remove things. You can use remove, and you can remove a particular value. I removed fish from the list. Another thing I used to do to L is, let's see. I think that's all I did to L. Just fish is missing, right? Or should we check it again? Rice, eggs, fish, beans. Cool. Rice, eggs, fish, beans. I think I also removed the first value. So I popped things. So we can either use the remove to remove values, or we can pop. Now there's a difference between these two. The thing with pop is that pop actually helps us store the value straight away when we pop it. But in remove, there's a little bit of funny thing I had to do. I first had to say, just so I can remember, this is the value I want to remove. And then I had to now, okay, to now put it, okay, this is the variable. I'm now going to put my fish variable, which is to remove, into this F to remove. So there's a lot of skullduggery. I just think I prefer pop this time. Also, there are some cool things we can do. We can delete things. We can also insert. And when we insert, we pick out an index position and we insert that value we want to put into an index position. Say, for example, I have this one here. This is called, this is quite similar to this one. It's like a tuple, but it's just a string. This is just a string. So what I did with this string, and that's the truth, a string is actually a tuple. What I did to this string is, well, I split it, and I now made it into a list. Okay, so if I print out what X is, it turns out that X is a list, and also, so don't look at W, the list is actually an X. So let's print out X and see what X gives us. X is a class list, and it has 1, 2, 3, 5, and 4. So what happens is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, but I now pushed away 4, okay, in this formerly string. I pushed away the 4 using this insert statement, becoming to -1. Remember, oh, I never said that. -1 is the way to get to the last position in your list if you don't know how long your list is. And now this being a string, what I did with this split statement, the split statement reads through our string and it tries to separate values by removing the things you have put here. So here, what I put here was comma and a space, 4. And so what now happens now is that we are now having 5 coming before 4. Cool. And so there's also a very cool statement, like I didn't really use it, so let's say del, right? And so what this del F and 2 is doing is looking at this formerly tuple that we transform into a list, and it says, okay, have we done any thing? We've popped the first one, remember? So we've taken away meat. Fish is now the first one, but this is now at 0. This is now 1. So it's going to remove eggs. Let me see if I'm right about that. So let me print out. Let's put this here. Let's put F. F is our food list, right? So when I put it here, F. Please try and name your list properly. So you see, it took away the egg. It's not a lucky guess, but I just think you should recommend you reading more about lists and checking out some books. It's actually pretty interesting. So great, you could use this in web applications. You know, if you want to work with data, you're going to be working with a lot of lists. I think you should enjoy using lists more and more. So that's all for today, guys.